Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I've got a bit of a special thing that I don't normally do on this channel. We are going to review something. We are going to be reviewing a show called Dinosapien. This is a show that...
Shut up, David. You're literally used to be called Spino Dude Reviews. You know what this concept is.
Yes, yep. There was a time where you would do reviews. Maybe not of shows.
I don't anymore.
Yeah, because you don't do that anymore. So this is a show that I feel like a big part of the reason why I want to do this review is kind of just to spread the word about its existence, because I feel like no one ever really talks about it. So for context here, right? So Dinosapien is a show that I watched as a kid. My family, we had on DVD, and so I watched it kind of frequently-ish, but I don't know when the last time I watched it was. It was probably when I was, pre-teen at oldest. So it's been like over a decade since I'd watched it. And then I forget what even it was, but somehow I was reminded of its existence. And I went, I never hear about this, even though I feel like I'm pretty involved in the dinosaur community and I hear a lot about dinosaur media. I don't think I've ever heard a single person talk about Dinosapien. And then I asked my friends, two of them being here, if they'd ever even heard of it. They'd never heard of it either. So I was like, well, let's do a rewatch.
Although I did retroactively kind of recognize Eno's design. I had seen it. I don't even know if it was actual pictures of him, but maybe art of him or something like that.
Yeah, you maybe had seen it somewhere. Yeah, I mean, it's floating around. When I look stuff up, it's not like it's literally it's not like it's lost media or something like that. But it's definitely no one really, it doesn't really seem like anyone really talks or knows about it. So why I want to do this review of it and rewatch it with the gang. So what is Dinosapien? So Dinosapien is a Canadian UK joint TV show that aired in 2007. It was filmed in Bragg Creek, Alberta. And it didn't really have, from at least what I can see of it, it doesn't really look like it had that big of an initial airing. It looks like it might have just kind of come out once and that was it, which is probably part of the reason why no one really talks about it. It doesn't really seem like there was much wide-scale distribution of it.
Probably because it wasn't very good.
That might also be a factor of it. Yeah, we don't want to spoil it
Thank you for watching. Sorry.
We don't want to spoil it too much, but yeah, there was some flaws. Okay,
that's actually a question I did have. I forgot to ask you before we started recording. How much do you want to spoil this show?
Oh, I'm thinking we're going to spoil the whole thing. So,
okay.
Warning.
Do we want to keep a spoilerless section, or do you want to just kind of go hard?
I'm thinking just kind of go hard into it. Well, we can briefly talk about the premise for a second, but then we can just go full into it. I will say, for anyone who wants to watch it, the whole thing is on YouTube. I will put a link to a playlist that has it on it in the description or the comment section. So you can watch the whole thing. There are 15 episodes, each 21 minutes long. And so if at any point in this review you decide that you don't want to have it spoiled for you and you just want to watch it, or if you're, come back to this review when you're done or whatever you want to do, I've got the link down there below for you so you can find it. Not that it's hard to find. You can just look up Dinosapien on YouTube and find it that way. But I just figured I'd make it super easy for people.
Honestly, I'm a person who authentically does not like wasting my time on pieces of media that I think are bad or boring. I learned this lesson pretty hard with Camp Cretaceous season 2, and I vowed to never waste any precious time out of my life on stupid crap like that. But I authentically think that this show is so bad it's good. It's not actually good, but it's so bad it's really enjoyable.
There's a lot of ironic enjoyment
you get
to have out of the show. Yes, you do get invested.
If you have a group of friends you really love watching some pretty silly stuff with, I think that this is definitely something you should consider watching. Like,
Yes.
I actually do give it my endorsement in terms of, like, go ahead. Like, it was actually a blast watching it with these guys. I had
Yeah.
a lot of fun. And I
It's
mean that
not-
from the bottom of
it's
my
not-
heart. I had a blast.
Yeah, I had a blast too. It's not boring, which I feel is a big thing.
It is not. It is definitely not
It's
boring.
not boring.
Just make sure you have a
It's
high
not boring.
cringe tolerance.
Yes.
Yeah, it's cringe as hell. You definitely need a
Yes.
cringe barrier.
Yes. Oh, also, I just realized this shows how often we don't make reviews like this anymore. My name is Eric, by the way. Do you guys want to say your guys' names?
Whoa.
Well, this is on your YouTube channel, right?
Yeah, so I feel like everyone will know my name, but they should be reminded of your names.
Yeah. So I guess I already set up David earlier.
My name
but-
is Walter James White. I live.
and he has a YouTube channel called Spino Dude Reviews, and he just shows you different methods of making substances and
Oh my
how
god.
to use them.
Following in
We
the
need to
podcast,
cook.
Walter White. And who are you?
I'm Aiden, and I go by Kikizilla 101 on YouTube.
Cool. They even plugged their YouTube channels. Look at that. More than I was expecting.
Well, he plugged it for me, but you know.
Yeah. Okay, so basic premise of the show. So Dinosapien, basically, it's about... there's this summer camp, right? In Alberta, Canada. I think it's called the Dino Explorers Camp. Hold on, let me pull my notes up. Yeah, Dinosaur Explorer Camp.
Did not remember that.
It's not super important. They don't say the name very often. But it's a camp for...
They say camp a lot.
They do say camp. For kids seeming like from about the age of, like, I don't know, 6 to 10. None of those kids are really the characters. Our main characters, well, there's two campers that are characters, Nelson and Danny.
Yeah, they're side characters.
Yeah. Our main characters are the counselors of this camp. And it's basically these counselors, they find and are interacting with these dinosaurs in the woods. Specifically, one counselor, Lauren, she's the main character.
Lauren.
As time goes on, they realize that these dinosaurs are also fairly intelligent. Hence the name Dinosapien as the show. They came out of the Badlands, out of caves. And I feel like that's kind of the basic premise. Do you have anything else you want to say about the basic premise?
I would not blame people who like got a glimpse at this for thinking that there was some kind of human like dinosaur like hybridization going on or something because of the
I thought
name,
the same thing going into it.
Yeah.
Also, that's what I thought going into it because of the name and the designs of the dinosaurs do not really discourage you from that idea. They do not look like dinosaurs. They look like monsters that are kind of humanoid.
One of them specifically.
Like they definitely have features like dinosaurs, but like in the same way that like an Ultraman kaiju would have features like a dinosaur.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, now that you say that, I hadn't really, because obviously, like, I'd seen it as a kid, so I knew that they weren't, but I can actually now see how you'd think specifically the main dinosaur character, like, there was a chance he could have been a hybrid, now that you're mentioning it, with kind of the appearance.
Now, this kind of ties into a bit of the plot, which I'll let you expound on in a second, or lead into this, but I originally thought that Eno was somehow going to be a hybrid with, like, her father.
Oh!
Or something.
Oh, boy!
In the plot.
That was definitely something running through my brain as well.
It was,
but
I was like, what?
I quickly dropped that after, like, Eno made it pretty clear that he knew her father.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, these guys were thinking it was going to be way more sci-fi.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was called Dinosapien, and it honestly did take a while for it to even semi-explain why the title was called that.
That is true. That's true. You don't really realize that.
I was kind of left to wonder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, now you say it, I can see that. I can see that.
This show is a show that likes to emphasize its mystery elements. Like, it really uses mystery as a driving force for the plot.
It does.
Yeah, I wasn't sure exactly how sci-fi was gonna get. It definitely got pretty sci-fi.
It got a little. It gets a bit crazier than you'd expect at the start.
Yeah, until it gets to fantasy. Like straight up fantasy at the very end. Just when you think it can't get crazier.
In a very unnecessary decision that they don't really do anything with anyway.
Yeah.
I'm just
but anyways, we're starting to get into some spoilers. So I think it's time to start reviewing the plot. So
yes.
If you don't want spoilers or anything, we're about to get into the spoiler section. Starting with episode 1, which I mean the first episode I don't really think is like major spoilers because it's the first episode's always like the basic premise, right? But so we open, right? Dinosapien. We open on the Alberta Badlands, and we see there's an earthquake that's happening. I don't know if those are common in the Alberta Badlands, but we see one happening. And it opens.
This show certainly makes it seem like a normal.
It does.
Occurrence.
It certainly makes it seem like this is a standard of the area. We see this earthquake happening, and then some rocks fall from a hillside, and it opens up this cave. We see this cave that leads into the mountainside, and out of it comes this dinosaur. We later learned his name is Eno. We don't learn that till a couple episodes in. I'll put images up on screen just so these guys know of some of the stuff happening here. He's
okay. Good. I have no idea what he looks like. I was really curious.
Yeah. I knew that you guys were concerned. So Eno, he's green. He's got kind of like a little like a hairdo of feathers. He's got some feathers on the end of his tail. He's got forward-facing eyes, fairly short face.
Honestly, that was another feature that really helped drive me into thinking that he was somehow partially human. Just containing the feathers suggests the head, like a literal hairdo, was a decision.
And I feel like that might have been, like, honestly, I feel they were kind of basing some of his head on human features, right?
I mean, it certainly makes him more relatable, so maybe they were aiming to make him a little bit easier to sympathize with.
Yeah, I actively feel like that might have been a conscious decision to try to make him a little more human-ish. Certainly more so than the two, I'm just going to say evil dinosaurs, because that's what they are. They're just evil. They're evil bastards.
They're just straight up sinister.
They're just straight up evil bastards
They're just
for no
evil.
reason. That chase, out of this cave, right? These things are wild looking. They get called the Diggers. There's a pair of them. They're these weird, like, ankylosaur, pachycephalosaur looking things, right? So they've got
wild.
They've got like a pachycephalosaur body with like an ankylosaur, like an old-fashioned ankylosaur back and tail. They've got these big sharp teeth in their mouths too, no beaks or anything. They're pretty crazy looking things. They're honestly they're of the two designs, they're easily my favorite because they're just so.
It's also kind of crazy because the way their teeth is, if I remember correctly, I think that we got fairly brief glimpses at their teeth whenever they'd open their mouth, but the way it looked, if memory serves, like the whole front of their mouth is like small little sharp teeth. And then, like, all of, like, where our molars would be is where the big, long, sharp teeth are. So there's not even, like, fangs at the corner fronts of the mouth or anything like that. It's, like, weird, really long, sharp teeth the further back into the mouth you go. And then at the front, it's these tiny, dinky little things.
Yeah.
They've got, batteries of vampire teeth.
And they're cheeked. They're they have fully cheeked mouths. So it's like, cheeks. I don't understand why there's these massive fangs inside of a cheeked mouth. Or like not fangs, but like long sharp teeth at the back of their mouth.
They have a really small mouth because of their cheeks. They're interesting things. They're very interesting. But so they come out. What was that?
I was saying, what were their names again?
Oh yeah. So
because they have character names that were name dropped once.
It was Blue Eyes?
Green Eye was one.
Oh, Green Eye.
There's a male and a female. The male's named Green Eye. The female's named Sarepta. Sarepta's a little bit bigger. She's a little bit bigger.
She's more dominant.
She's more dominant. She's got these two black marks on the top of her dome, and she's got red eyes instead of green eyes, like the male whose name is Green Eyes. So anyway, so they chase Eno out of this cave, right? And then there's a brief fight. We see them demonstrate their signature rolling ability, where they like roll into a ball and
like
try to attack things. Yeah. And while they're fighting, potentially because of the fight, because we see the cave close after one of the diggers like slams to the side of a mountain, causing some vibrations, the cave closes, right? And locks all three of these dinosaurs in the modern, well, they're obviously in the modern day, in the overworld is what I will say. Then in this confusion, as the diggers are they run up to the side of the cave and are like, whoa, like this is locked away. Like, what, we can't get back now. Eno uses this as an opportunity to run away. The diggers do try to chase him, but then when they hit the sunrise, this is happening at sunrise, when the sun hits their eyes, they like react to it and are like, they really don't like light, but like kind of only when it's like shined in their eyes. Like they're okay with being out during the day. They just don't like bright things shined in their eyes, which I mean, like, fair, bro.
They're like mogwais or gremlins. They just don't like bright light.
They just don't like, but only when it's like shined. I was gonna say,
isn't that like
shined at them, right? Like it's like some like it's honestly the same reaction you'd have as like someone put a flashlight in your eyes. Like it's kind of just like a weakness that I think anything would have.
I was just gonna say that's just like a normal reaction that like any tetrapod would have. If
they're a little dramatic about it.
Oh, they definitely have it.
And also, not quite every tetrapod would be like that. If you point a bright light at a frog, it actually stops moving.
Yeah,
that's
true.
And they check out.
Yeah, sometimes animals can be surprisingly cool with it. But
it's
the way
more
that
so
you'd
the
react
point
to
of
it,
them not enjoying it, less than the reaction.
Yeah. So Eno gets away this way. And then after that intense interaction, we cut to see our main character, Lauren Slayton, and she is practicing her gymnastics on this this log setup that she has in the woods.
Oh my god! I forgot that was a little like character development thing at the beginning.
Yeah,
because we've been watching it for so long, it like completely lost all relevance by the end of the show.
They do drop it, don't they? So she's practicing her gymnastics on this log thing, which I'm gonna guess that maybe she built, maybe her dad built it. I'm not too sure. But she's got this sprained ankle, right? And as we learn, this sprained ankle is keeping her from going to gymnastics camp, which is where she actually wants to go. She wanted to go to gymnastics camp. She can't go, so now she's stuck here helping her mom out at this silly dinosaur camp, which I think she did as a kid, right? This whole plot line, as Aiden said, with the gymnastics and specifically the sprained ankle just kind of disappears. Like her sprained ankle just kind of gets better, and like more so because like it just stops getting acknowledged.
Did she ever react because of the sprained ankle?
There was a couple times in the beginning of the show, but then she just kind of stopped.
So they just forgot.
They just kind of forgot. They just kind of forgot about it.
Either they were doing this on the fly and everybody on the crew just forgot about this detail, or even the writers just wrote it in, forgot about it, and nobody cross-checking or reading the script was like, hey, what happened to that? Because it's just gone.
Yeah, totally. But so then after this, after she messes up and is like kind of hard on herself about it, she goes back home and we meet her mom, who I'm gonna guess she runs this camp. Kind of the logistics of this camp are never really explained, but I'm gonna guess that she's the one who that her mom is the one who runs it, because we don't really see anyone else who seems to be in charge. She's the only adult there, so I'm gonna guess that's the case.
Well, besides our resident evil guy.
Oh, yes, but he hasn't shown up yet. We'll get to him. So then we go to the camp and we see a bus show up. It drops all the kids off. It's very exciting. And we meet the only two camper characters who are characters with names that we see repeatedly. Brother and sister Nelson and Danny. They might be twins because they look to be at like the same age, but I don't think that's ever said.
I think they mention it once that they're twins.
Okay, maybe.
I mean, it's the only way it makes sense.
Yeah.
Besides being adoptive siblings.
Yeah. Or maybe one of them's just short. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, but these two are big dinosaur nerds, right? Like they're kind of the signature dinosaur nerd kids, right? They know a lot about this stuff, which makes sense. They're at a dinosaur themed summer camp.
And one of them has a pet tortoise that's sick.
Oh, but we haven't got to that yet. We'll get to that.
Oh,
Aiden threw the whole plot out the window.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That was a key detail, Aiden. Don't worry, as we'll discuss, the tortoise does get better.
Oh, he spoils it further.
Anyways, we also get to meet some of our other counselor characters. These include Kit and Chris and Courtney. Courtney is apparently she's Lauren's good friend. I'm not too sure how they met. All the counselors clearly at the beginning of the show, they clearly know each other, right? Like this isn't their first time meeting. Like they clearly have
I got the impression that they maybe they were all like counselors a different year too.
Maybe they were counselors a different year. Maybe they were at this camp when they were younger. I don't know. Like it's clear that they know each other, but it's also clear by some of their reactions that they haven't seen each other in a little bit, right? Like it's been a while
which
since
is
they've seen each other.
Yeah, I was gonna say you could easily assume that they were all like friends from school, but that detail does make it kind of seem like there's been a big gap. Yeah. I remember picking up on some context or subtext within the dialogue that made it seem like they had maybe all done this like the year prior or something. But maybe that would be giving the dialogue in this show quite a bit of props to like I don't know if I could give it that much like credit for intentionality. If you watch like one episode of this thing and you'll see pretty quickly that I don't think this thing was robustly written.
No. So I mean, just the whole fact that, like I said,
if at all,
the logistics of this camp, the fact that we're not like they clearly know each other, but like we're not really too sure why or how. I think are definitely some examples of like,
and maybe the writers don't know how either.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe it was an important detail. But these four are our main counselor characters. I do think there's a couple other counselors we see around, but like we never, like they don't talk or anything. These really are the four that we care about. And just to talk about the actors a little bit. So most of the actors in this series haven't really been in anything too notable. They're mostly all like TV actors, or they've only been in like a few things. The girl who plays Danny, actually, from what I can see in IMDb, this is her acting career. She was in Dinosapien and nothing else.
She peaked at Dinosapien.
Yeah. This is all.
She peaked and valleyed at Dinosapien.
I mean, good for her for retiring early.
Yeah. Good for her retiring at the age of 7. But that said, some of these actors, have done some notable things that I'll bring up. Probably the most notable is the actor who plays Kit. Hold on, let me remind myself what his name is. Bronson Pelletier. He is actually in the Twilight movies. He plays a character.
It makes so much sense.
Yeah, he is. He plays a character named Jared. Apparently, he's one of the werewolves. I haven't seen these movies. I've looked this up after hearing that he's in the Twilight movies. So that's probably the most notable thing any of them have been in. He's also been in. I saw the trailer for this when I just like popped up his IMDb page. But he's also been in a movie called Fishing Naked, which is, it seems like it's about people. I don't know why it has that title, because it seems like it's about people faking Bigfoot sightings to try to lure people away from like their favorite fishing spots.
Okay.
And I saw the trailer for it, and I don't know if it will be good or not. But
Is this a movie?
This is a movie. I think it's worth my time at least. I'm definitely gonna check it out at some point. I'm curious.
I'm very
Like it's already out? This is like an older
I think
movie?
it came out in like 2015 or something like that.
I am color me interested.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm very curious about that.
You know me. Anywhere that Bronson guy goes, I'm just itching to chase him.
Oh yeah. Aiden's a big fan of him in the Twilight movies, as we know. And then let's see. So the character who plays, I keep calling them characters. The guy who plays Chris, he's also done some early 2000s anime dubbing, which I feel is notable.
Really?
Yeah, really.
Anything notable? Any big names?
He actually was in a couple. I don't think he had any big roles in it, but he was in a couple Dragon Ball things.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
Probably side characters. Or
Probably
like some
side character. It didn't seem like
dude.
he's been in anything super big. Also, the actor who plays Nelson, the little one of the camper characters, the brother of the brother and sister duo. Apparently, I don't know what role he has in it, but apparently he was in Tooth Fairy, that movie with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson that came out a long time ago.
Oh my god!
He's in
I
that.
thought he kind of looked familiar.
He's in that.
I thought he kind of looked... Okay, I've seen that movie a lot. When I was
Okay.
younger, my grandmother used to watch us during the summers when both my parents were working, and she was obsessed with Dwayne Johnson, and that was like her favorite Dwayne Johnson movie. Like sexually obsessed with him. Like she was like she wanted him to be her husband. Like she was not like a fan of his acting. She thought he was a sex icon.
Okay.
And married woman, by the way. But
that makes it better.
Anyways, yeah, she loved the Tooth Fairy movie, and so I watched it way too much.
That is so funny. That's so good.
But I thought that his face kind of looked familiar, but I quickly dismissed it. But now I think he might be one of the main kids in that movie.
Okay, maybe. I've never seen it.
I don't remember.
Well, if you rewatch Tooth Fairy, viewers, and tell us what role he has in it.
Yeah, my investment's very little, but that does ring a bell.
Also, when he got significantly older, he was a character in Fear the Walking Dead named Jake Powell was his character's name.
Oh.
So, that's interesting.
Oh.
Then the only other thing I want to note is Courtney. She is she's the best character in the show.
She's very entertaining.
But her actress, Mackenzie Porter, is apparently a country singer now, and not like a really.
I can totally see that.
Not like a.
Totally see that.
And not
That's
like a
so...
not like a super obscure one either. I just quickly looked her up on YouTube Music, and she's got like a couple songs that have like over a million listens. So like.
Wait, what's the name? I'm gonna look it up now because I might know some of these songs. Hold on.
Mackenzie Porter is her name.
Mackenzie Porter.
Yeah. We're gonna see. David's the country music listener among us.
Is it Mackenzi?
Yeah.
However, I don't recognize any of these.
Okay.
Wait, Chasing Tornadoes. That sounds familiar.
Yeah, that's a
Drinking Songs, the collection. This is totally... this is so... I don't know if I would have pegged this, like, perfectly, but, like, this is so on brand. Like, this is so... like, it's not surprising
you can see
at
this.
all. Like, none of this is surprising. Like, it just makes so much sense.
And that's kind of it for notable things that a lot of these guys have been in. Like I said, most of these actors have been in like a bunch of TV things. Nothing super crazy. Those are kind of the notable things I wanted to mention. Oh, so back at camp, when we I forget exactly what's happening, but somehow Nelson and Danny like run off into the woods with Lauren because they see a Harris's hawk, which turns out to be Kit's. Well, specifically Kit's uncle, who he's taking care of right now. For some reason, not too sure why he's taking care of his Harris's hawk, whose name is Dakota. But one of the big things I wanted to mention about Dakota, big reason why I'm bringing this up, is because a lot of people will know the classic thing about how in movies bald eagles make red-tailed hawk noises.
I forgot about
If
this.
you're not aware of this, in most movies, whenever you hear, like, think of like the classic bald eagle noise that you hear in like a movie or a piece of media or something. That's actually the noise of a red-tailed hawk, right? Because Hollywood, yeah, that noise right there.
Amazing.
Because apparently Hollywood, I guess, decided that bald eagles don't sound cool enough, which I personally disagree with. I think that they have like a really cool kind of majestic kind of a vibe. They don't sound fierce, but I feel like they kind of embody a lot of like wilderness aesthetics with their call.
They sound more poppy or bubbly.
Yeah.
It's like a laugh almost, like a...
Exactly. It's almost like a laugh. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because Dakota, the Harris's hawk, makes bald eagle noises in this show, which is so
So he
funny.
he shouldn't be doing the red-tailed hawk sound, but that would make more sense than doing the bald eagle sound.
And it's so funny to me that it's the reverse. And then we never see Dakota again.
You had one job.
Yeah, like he's just set up just to put a breadcrumb down for like
for Lauren and Kit to meet each other in an interesting way. Yeah, and also to set up 10 Bears, the name of Kit's uncle, who we will be seeing again. We cut back to Eno. He finds a ghost town and a cabin. This will become his new home. We cut back to Lauren and her mom. We learn here that Lauren's dad is gone. Specifically, he is gone missing. Because they don't actually say what happened to him at first, but he's gone missing, right? And that's kind of all the details there. Then Lauren runs through the ghost town. She goes on a run because her and her mom were kind of disagreeing and she wanted to clear her mind. So as you do, you I guess the ghost town's on her route or something. I don't know. But she runs through the ghost town. And she hears a noise, so she tries to investigate it, right? Eno hears her and sees her, and he kind of like tries to hide inside this like abandoned general store. And he like knocks over a thing, makes a noise. Lauren gets scared, runs away, but she drops her locket, right? And her locket has a picture of her and her dad in it, so it means a lot to her.
She has not seen him yet, by the way.
Yeah, no, she hasn't seen Eno yet. No, she just heard the noise, right? So she drops her locket, she runs away, doesn't realize that she dropped her locket. But Eno finds the locket and grabs it and decides that he wants to try to give it back to her, right? So anyway, skipping over some stuff, Lauren then she's out looking for this locket that she lost, and this is when she has her first encounter with Eno and the diggers, right? They're in the dark. We don't really see what they are, even though we've seen them. We know what they look like. She doesn't really know what they look like, right? And so it's this kind of like mysterious-esque thing. But then Eno comes in and saves her from the diggers, and it's like this incredible thing. It's our first meeting between these two. The setup of them, because Eno is he will be the toothless to her hiccup, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, she ends up like befriending him, and like she tries to teach him English, gives him like a toy.
Yeah, she does end up doing that.
Like she even brings him back to like, I think they end up at the store at some point because like he's trying to show her stuff or something. They like have a house, like a doll house, and that's where like the plot thickens like tenfold. Well, in this show's way of thickening, in the form that they're like playing with the toys, and Eno, like it becomes pretty obvious, at least to the audience, or maybe even semi like intelligent people that can pick up on context clues, that Eno's trying to tell her that he knows her dad, who's been missing or dead, but she's like completely oblivious to it at first.
Because he's seen him in her locket, right, and he recognizes her, and he's like, "Oh, it's the guy. I know that guy."
Yeah. And he even says like father and stuff,
Father,
and like
Alan.
she ends up like genuinely getting frustrated with him, like that, like because she's trying to explain a concept like to him or something like, oh, you want to like find your father, like, and like she almost seems like he keeps resisting or like trying to like basically tell her that he knows her father, and she just it almost comes across the way that she's like frustrated, like trying to get him to understand the concept of what a father is. Like he doesn't understand it, but she doesn't realize he does, and he's saying that he knows her father.
It comes across, it's the same vibes as Adam Driver getting offended at a girl that doesn't speak English in 65 and like literally getting mad at her because of it.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, though, I wouldn't expect a dinosaur to understand the concept of a father. Like
she does have high expectations for him.
But yeah, it seemed pretty obvious to me, at least.
Yeah.
Like, I think early on, too, there's a point where the Diggers and Eno really get into it or something. Like, they have a big fight. I don't remember what ends up happening. I think, is that, Eno doesn't get hurt with that one, does he?
Which
the
fight
early
are you talking
on
about?
one?
Which fight are you talking about?
Like they're in the woods. I think it's the first time he tries to protect Lauren from them.
Is it the one at night?
I don't know. I thought it was during the day. The first one.
Oh, okay. Then I'm not too sure.
Either way, what were you going to say?
Oh no, I think it's the one where is she with Kit when it happens, and they're like hiding behind a rock.
I think it was just her first because I thought he tried to protect her. He distracted the Diggers from getting to her or something.
He does, but that's at night.
No, that's the first time he's actually aggressive. Like, because I remember, like, he kind of seemed like the victim the whole time because they were chasing him, which I thought was pretty funny because he's clearly the more carnivorous-looking dinosaur out of the two.
Yeah.
And he is like thoroughly the victim the entire show. But he clearly like either recognized her or he just got really attached to Lauren. Maybe he has a crush on her or something, but he got like really attached to her fast because I remember being a little jarred when he jumps over her, I think, and in front of the Diggers and then starts fighting them. Yeah. Because that's like, not only is that
he's
like
tried to defend her
before that.
Times.
Yeah, but before that, like, he was just established to basically run from them, and honestly, throughout the entire show, he doesn't fight them much. Like, he'll like, kind of distract them and then run, but, like, he does not, like, full-on fight them. He's kind of just the victim the entire time.
He definitely is.
That was still, like, the most notable point where I think he gets the most aggressive, because he literally jumps at them and, like, yells at them. And gets them to fight it.
Yeah, the only time he really fights things are when he's, like, defending Lauren or people, right? Like, other than that, he tends to just run away from the Diggers stuff. He's not a very aggressive guy.
He's a selfless guy.
He's a selfless guy. There is one time he fights a bear. That's pretty cool.
Oh, that was good.
Oh, that's true.
I remember looking up, I saw it on IMDb, the bear's name, the actor for the bear, his name is Whopper. And I feel...
What?
Whopper.
Whopper.
And I feel like that is notable.
My boy Whopper.
And I should say that. And also, of course, this bear is doing a lot of roaring and acting in aggressive ways that a bear probably would not actually do in this situation. Like, he's just like, this bear's just out to get him, right? Like, he's following Kid and Lauren around.
If I remember too, I think he's like really poorly composited in, where there's like almost like a fence or something that you could kind of see there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really funny. And there's multiple times where like when he's supposed to be retreating from Eno, right? Like, he just turns around and just starts walking away casually because, like, you know.
Yeah.
they
didn't really convince the actor bear to be that urgent in his retreat.
No. I wouldn't be shocked if
enough.
He's probably not even making noises in most of these shots. He's probably just been trained to open his mouth, right? And then they dub it in, right? But yeah, you know, he's a very selfless guy like that. You know, he tries to defend them and stuff from the Diggers. Let's talk about the Diggers a little bit, because the Diggers they're an interesting group.
Honestly,
that's putting it lightly.
They're borderline the highlight of the show.
They are the highlight of the show, easily. So first off, one thing I didn't realize they revealed so early on in the show is that the Diggers are also smart. Like, you know, honestly, I think I might argue they might be more intelligent. They're certainly more technologically advanced than is.
Well, at least more consistently technologically advanced. There's something that happens towards the end of the show that really contrasts that.
If we're talking about single achievements.
That is true. But yeah, we start off like they find, so they're kind of I'm gonna call it their lair is like this like this old coal mine. They like live in this old coal mine, and they'll make like weapons and stuff. Like they do some flint napping and make like boomerangs to like throw it, to use like a weapon.
They're sharp boomerangs.
They're sharp boomerangs.
They also build up their arsenal by stealing technology from people.
Yes,
and
dude, that's one thing that's one thing that is so funny. Is it's a consistent thing throughout the show that the Diggers are clearly very curious in weapons based technology. And they do
because I feel like we have to stress that these guys, despite this being clearly a made for kids show, that these guys are like almost exclusively, there's a couple exceptions, but they are almost exclusively out for blood. Like they explicitly are trying to kill people.
They are trying to kill things just because they can. It doesn't really seem like there's a reason for it. It's just
almost half the time, maybe even more than half the time, it's with a weapon and not their own body parts, like their mouths or their tails or anything like that.
Yeah. And it's one thing I think is really crazy is they do a lot of stealing of weapons that they then never use. Like we see them at one point, they steal a whistle because they see that Eno doesn't like whistles. Like he hears the whistle noise and he runs away. So they're like, I guess they think that they could use it somehow. We also see them at one point, they steal a tranquilizer gun. But
an entire gun.
But neither of these things...
And that was even the cliffhanger for the episode.
Yeah, it was like,
they have the gun, oh no,
the Diggers have a gun
You know what?
And they never use it.
Make the bow after they got the gun. I don't know if there was some kind of twisted, like, very... jarred logic where they were trying to like suggest that seeing the gun inspired them to make a projectile weapon.
No. They got inspired because Lauren in one of the later episodes, she attacks them with a bow and arrow. They see her bow and arrow.
Yeah. Oh, you're right.
They see her bow and arrow.
That is correct.
And then they make it.
So
and
that makes sense.
They make like these really well put together arrows. Like it's kind of impressive considering the fact that this is supposedly their first time doing this. Like they're really like professional.
Yeah, and they're two-person. It's a two-person bow.
Yeah, that's the big thing is that this giant two-person bow that they shoot at characters with, and they're really good at it. Like they'll consistently like get like inches away from hitting a character. Like they don't actually hit them because again, this is a kid show. But like they're like
they popped a car tire.
Yeah, like this is a giant arrow flying way closer than I think anyone would be comfortable with.
This is like a whaling harpoon. That's how big these arrows are. Like they go fast and they barely miss their mark. I mean, these guys would have absolutely destroyed one of these kids if they were any better at aiming.
If this was just one maturity rating higher, there would have been some casualties.
Yes.
Honestly, just one grade up, and you would have had at least somebody get murdered.
Courtney crying over Chris.
By these things. Yeah, dude. It's insane. Yeah. And while we're talking about the dinosaurs, I think one thing I'd also like to talk about is kind of like their designs in kind of the concept of evolved dinosaurs. So basically kind of the main thing with this show, if you haven't already gotten it or figured it out, is that dinosaurs survived the KT mass extinction. But they do so underground. They live in caves, the Hollow Earth, never fully explained, but they're underground.
Portals, Eric.
But they're underground.
I think it's most consistently referred to as their world.
It's referred to as
the
their
dinosaur world.
Yeah, we never get to see this world, so we don't know.
So
what
you just kind of have to infer what it is. Either way, the entry point or where they come from is under the ground. They later refer to the entry points, like the particular points, as portals. How literal that is,
Yeah, it's hard to
say.
We obviously are living in the post Godzilla versus Kong world where we now think of the portals in the Hollow Earth. I don't necessarily know if that's what they were thinking. They might have been saying portals in more like the opening kind of a sense. Like these are the gate like between two worlds, but like they're still just like a cave. They're like a naturally occurring opening. Because when we see the caves, there's nothing weird looking about them. They just look like normal cave openings. So it's interesting. But these are dinosaurs that survived the KT mass extinction, but they've evolved since then, right? They're not the same dinosaurs that were alive 65 million years ago, right? They've been continuing to evolve underground, which of course is realistic. Like that's what would happen. Like T-Rex would not still be alive today if the dinosaurs hadn't gone extinct, because as time goes on, species naturally go extinct and new species evolve, that kind of stuff. But their specific take on the evolution of dinosaurs is that dinosaurs would evolve to gain higher intelligence, right? And I don't think, like Eno specifically, I don't really think his design, like obviously his design is some early 2000s CGI stuff, right? But if you kind of ignore that, I don't think his design is that horrible for the idea of an intelligent dinosaur, right? Like so the back of his head is expanded, right, for an increased brain size. His head is much shorter, which is something that we do see a lot of times in animals when they have an increased brain size, is their skull shortens, right? Because this is like this is a juvenile characteristic.
All these traits are seen in koalas, which are obviously a lot more currently alive than dinosaurs, and they are very stupid. So
yes, certainly when it comes to the short face thing, koalas have a pretty short face. But it is something that we do see happen quite a bit in evolution, because it seems like it's one of the things where like a way to increase the size of the brain is by keeping the head in a more juvenile state, right? Because babies proportionally to their body size have bigger heads. Bigger brains compared to their skull.
Seems like a neotenic feature.
Yeah, exactly. They have bigger brains compared to their skull than adults do, right? So one way to keep the brain big is just to keep a more juvenile looking skull, right? Obviously, this is I think that this has to be at least somewhat influenced by the whole concept of the Dinosauroid, which Dale Russell came up with.
Definitely gives vibes of like cleaned up version of that.
Yeah. So the Dinosauroid, for people who don't know, was come up with by Dale Russell, I think in like the 80s. And it was his idea of like what a dinosaur might look like if it evolved human level intelligence. And it's been pretty decently criticized over the years for looking way too human. It basically looks like a gray alien, but like lizardified. It looks like a lizard person, right?
I think it's another victim of that thought process that like, if it's highly evolved and it's highly intelligent, it's got to look like us.
Yeah, so it's upright walking. It's got broad shoulders. It doesn't have a tail. It's got some dinosaur-y things. It's got 3 fingers, right? It's got somewhat of a snout, but it's incredibly humanoid. Probably way more humanoid than what would be realistic. Eno, I think, is a much better representation of this, because though he has some features like, again, the expanded cranium for his brain, he's still clearly a dinosaur, right? Like he's still, specifically, he's clearly a dromaeosaur or a troodontid, because he's got that toe claw, right? Like raptors do. So he's clearly an evolved version of one of those species in that lineage. And I really don't think he looks too bad broad concept wise. Obviously, like he should have a full coat of feathers since he's a dromaeosaur. His hands are pronated, right? They face inward like the Jurassic Park raptors do. When dinosaurs, their hands could only face inwards to each other, like they were clapping. He also has 4 fingers, which is a really weird thing because meat-eating dinosaurs, theropods, don't, well, certainly ones related to birds, like raptors are, none of them have 4 fingers at that point. They only have 3. So it's kind of weird that he's 4.
And he has opposable thumbs, right?
Yeah, I think he does. He kind of, I think, almost has 2, right? He's got like these 2 larger fingers and he's got these 2 small ones on the side.
I mean, they might have been like trying to balance out the shape, because I know a lot of times that
Maybe
human shaped hands can look really weird if you limit it to 3 fingers. So that's why a lot of times you'll see like, you know, like The Simpsons are limited to 4 fingers, but like if you limited it less, it'd be kind of weird. Like
it doesn't look like a human hand anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, the Ninja Turtles are where like they have 3 fingers, I think.
They do, and their hands do look pretty not human-y.
In the cartoons, it looks okay, but they also make them really boxy and wide. But like, you know, in the live action ones, it definitely looked a little bit more weird.
Yeah. I actually did a drawing of both the of Eno and the Diggers, kind of more, I guess, scientifically updated, right? So with like feathers and stuff on that I'll put on screen now. And I think definitely like kind of doing that, I think they look much better. But I do want to talk about the Diggers too. So I personally suspect that the Diggers evolved from pachycephalosaurs, just because like, since they're semi-bipedal, right? So sometimes they're walking on all 4, sometimes they're walking on 2 legs. And I just don't really see an ankylosaur evolving to be bipedal again, right? They're so already kind of like committed to walking on 4 legs. It just doesn't seem like something that would happen to me. I think it'd be more likely that a pachycephalosaur evolved an ankylosaur-like armor plan than ankylosaurs evolving a pachycephalosaur head and gaining bipedal abilities again. So that's kind of my headcanon, at least.
Also, I mean, I don't think it's very improbable that, like, I mean, everything that's walked on 2 legs started out on 4 first, so it's not improbable that you would go that direction.
It's not.
But like, I think that another notable thing is that it has the distinct Pachycephalosaurus dome on its head, and that is a trait that's like maybe with 1 or 2 exceptions that are kind of similar, basically exclusive to Pachycephalosaurus, but like, or Pachycephalosaurs. On the other hand, the clubs and the armor, like osteoderms and stuff, you get stuff like that in turtles. You get like clubs on other animals like Shunosaurus and stuff like that.
Just like sauropods independently evolved very similar structures on their own, and they're on the other side, the other half of the dinosaur, like grouping with ornithischians versus saurischians.
It's a lot easier to evolve those traits than the dome head, or at least more
it does.
common.
Plus, also, again, with the bipedal thing, ankylosaurs are just so heavily armored, right? Like, I feel like they have so much weight. Like, I just feel like, to me, I don't see how they could easily evolve bipedality when they're so heavily built.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I think you'd have to have a more agile, or like borderline a pursuit predator ankylosaur evolution or something for them to start wanting to go to bipedalism. But like, I'm just saying, I think that like another good point, but that's like, not only is it easier to do it from Pachycephalosaur, but also just the traits that are from the ankylosaur one are a lot less exclusive to them than the dome head from Pachycephalosaurs. So
that is true. But I really like their design overall. I think their design is very creative. Like, I mean, Eno he's a raptor that's been modified a little bit. But they're like these weird combination things. I personally like the Diggers a lot. I think that they're pretty creative.
They're like Stegoceratops, but with Pachycephalosaurus and Ankylosaurus.
Exactly.
I'm kind of curious, did like Jurassic World the game by Ludia ever accidentally kind of get close to making a Digger? Because they did so many weird combos.
Did they ever combine a Pachycephalosaur and an Ankylosaur? I don't know, maybe.
They might have gotten kind of close by accident.
Ooh.
I'm researching. Hold on.
On accident or on purpose. Maybe some dude knew about the Diggers and intentionally tried to persuade that. But I like, also those two are just like, they seem kind of like obvious traits. In hindsight, they seem like obvious traits to want to combine.
They had the Pachyceratops, that was Nasutoceratops, and Pachycephalosaurus.
I remember that one, yeah.
That one was kind of cool. They had the Giganocephalus, that was Giganotosaurus and Euoplocephalus. Armormata, which was Notosaurus and Mosasaurus.
Oh, that is interesting.
Let me check Jurassic World Alive, because they have more hybrids in general.
But none of these even look like the Diggers, right? Like, even though they're not the combination that we're looking for.
Yeah.
They don't look like the Digger, no.
It's funny too because the Diggers, like early on, they really do earn that name. It's kind of funny. It was a very notable point in the show because they had not named them yet.
Oh yeah,
and our friend group actually ended up like guessing the names, like kind of insincerely, and Eric was laughing because he was like, you guys figured it out.
Yeah,
like that's what we're like. What? It's just Diggers.
Yeah.
So, but there was a couple points where they were digging early on, but I think my favorite point is like maybe in like, very early, like second, third, fourth episode, somewhere around there, they like go to an old mining like site and they like break into this.
Yeah, it's like their lair.
They break into like a conveyor belt for coal or something like that, and then like go all the way down a mine shaft and just start digging. Like they're just making noise, like ruckus. And Eno comes in to check in on them, and that's like I think one of the other notable times where he like goes out of his way and interacts with them. Wait,
this is the Enkylo Moloch.
Okay,
which you can guess what that is made out of.
Close enough.
Yeah, it's kind of right.
That's what I figured, though. I figured it was gonna be quadrupedal if they did it, but like that's crazy. They did do it. Okay, so they have a digger.
Yeah, that doesn't look that different from them, other than obviously the front legs.
Yep.
Huh. And Kylo Moloch, look at that, accidentally making the diggers.
I'm scrolling through the rest of them to see if there's anything else. Wait, there's a Crichton Moloch too.
Oh.
What is that? Crichton Moloch. Oh no, this doesn't look anything like him. Never mind.
Oh, okay.
Is it just the other way around? Oh, what?
Never mind. Crichton Moloch. What's
that looks like those old Chinosaur like Scalenosaurus figures or something like that.
It does.
It roaring like that.
With just the spikes glued on.
Yeah. Okay, that's cringe. Moving on.
That's super cringe. But anyways, but as it also turns out, the diggers specifically, I think just kind of the dinosaurs in general, but the diggers specifically, are apparently, according to the show, a big part of Native American folklore in this region. So Kit's uncle Ten Bears, we're talking to him at one point, and he says that what we call the diggers, they called the Unkate, which apparently, according to him, were these, essentially what they are. They're these creatures from underground that would come up and wreak havoc occasionally, right? And every now and then the Thunderbirds would come in and smite them. So I decided to look up Unkate to see like if this is a real thing or if it's something that just like the show made up. And it seemed pretty consistently from what I could find about the Unkate that they are a part of like Lakota and Sioux mythology, but they are water serpents specifically. It doesn't seem like they are associated with living underground. They're associated with the water. They are associated with fighting Thunderbirds and losing by Thunderbirds, but they're not associated with an underground thing. And so that it feels to me almost a little bit like the whole thing that some cryptozoologists will do where like they'll point at a Native American story and like say it's Bigfoot, even when like it's clearly not Bigfoot. But it's weird because this is obviously like a fictional show. So it's kind of an interesting thing that they chose that, especially because like I was talking to Aiden, it does sound like in a lot of Native American mythology there are underground things that they could have instead used. So I don't know. It's weird.
I've done a number of research, and
he's done a number of research.
I needed to structure that sentence better. I've scrambled my thoughts. I've done a lot of research around Native American stuff. I really love Native American culture, and I've also done a lot of writing, and I love inspiring things off of Native American culture and mythology. And I immediately recognized the Unkate name when they said it, but not like directly as that word, and I had heard it before. Like I wasn't super familiar with the Unkate themselves, but I've heard a lot of names that were pronounced similarly. And one of them was the Uktena, which is it's like an underground serpent with a diamond in its forehead, where like like warriors would fight it, but like it was like impenetrable unless you hit it right in the diamond in his forehead. It's like some weirdly specific thing. But like in Native American cultures, a lot of times, or mythology, I should say, a lot of times things that come from underground are like exclusively negative. Like there's a lot of things in their culture that have like a balance to them, or they serve a role of balancing things. Like Thunderbirds are not a force of good or not a force of evil. Like they were feared, but they were also respected, and like they were a balancing force in the way that you don't mess with a Thunderbird, but if you let it be, it will do things that benefit you. Kind of like, hey, don't kill the spider in your house because the spider will kill other pests that like you don't like being around, right? So like that's kind of how like most Native American cultures treated the Thunderbird. It was just this balancing force, but it was commonly associated with very negative forces that it kept at bay, which benefited the Native Americans, because there was also a lot of times where the Native Americans were directly harmed by the Thunderbird. But in this show, they kind of just seem to like hand wave all of that away, and like the Thunderbird is like exclusively good. I guess they are trying to contextualize it as like, oh, it's the only thing that can stop the Unkate. But like most of the way they talk about it makes it seem like it is their savior, and like it's a more positive or more exclusively good force, which I thought was a little one-dimensional. But I thought it is kind of interesting that because in general, like things that are underwater or like under the ground tend to be things that the Thunderbird doesn't like or will suppress or oppress in some way. And the Uktena is one that I thought of immediately when they said Unkate, which is like in some cultures actually almost like the antithesis to the Thunderbird. It's like almost the exact opposite of it. Although it is a little bit more one-dimensional because it's negative. Anyways, I'm rambling.
But like I was trying to do some research about it, like I said, and I kind of quickly realized that like I think I kind of fully understand like what's going on here. Would take maybe a bit more research than I was willing to do. So I'm just going to leave it at that with this, like, they're called the Unkate, but there's also these other things. And also, like, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. It's strange. With what exactly that whole decision-making process was there.
I think we should talk about the characters a little bit more, because our main cast, like, how they develop.
One thing, we haven't really talked about this much, but we should probably say about these actors is none of them are particularly amazing actors.
No.
Like, I don't really want to, like, call them out majorly, you know, like, I hope that they had a really great time filming this and all that kind of stuff, but, you know, they definitely have a low-budget TV acting quality to them.
They had some room to grow.
I think they have some room to grow. Which I do think actually probably makes the show more enjoyable, in my opinion.
Yeah,
watching all this.
Honestly, Kit's delivery just made the show for me.
Kit has some crazy deliveries, bro.
Kit gave you the exact vibe of like that one project you're doing in middle school or high school where you're filming with your friends from school because you have to do like a little project like that, and nobody's even like they're just like not even talking like a real person. And I know that sounds kind of weird because like acting, you don't often talk like a real person, you just make it kind of feel immersive, but you're still reading dialogue that's not, you know, all that much like how real people talk. But like he's talking like a person who's genuinely just a kid who's just reading a little script off a little paper that they wrote down like 3 hours earlier.
It honestly does give the feel of like you and your high school classmates, you and your 4 buddies need to film a video for school, and you like just do that real quick. His acting has that style to it.
Courtney is not a good actor either. Her actress, she's not a convincing character, but she is a charismatic character.
She's so charismatic. As we stated before, she's probably the most enjoyable character in the show, easily.
Like she literally, one of the first things we know about her, besides her like establishing her friendship with Lauren, is that she declares Kit, I believe. Yeah, she declares Kit as her summer project because she's going to try and basically boyfriend him up. And there is some. It's not necessarily ever like overtly sexual tension, but there is definitely romantic tension between a lot of the characters. Yes. Courtney, though, like I think she kind of established herself from the get-go as that like she's like this is just gonna be a summer fling, and I don't even think she's implying necessarily anything actually sexual about it. Like she just wants to make him her, like she wants to win him over. She wants to woo him.
Yeah, she wants a boyfriend. She wants to make him want to be her boyfriend. Is her goal.
She wants the attention. She wants him to want her.
Yes. She also, we should say, she's got that kind of, I guess, city girl-esque vibe, valley girl-esque vibe.
Oh, she's got valley girl or speech, like for sure.
Yeah, she does not really want to be there. She's there for Lauren. She doesn't really like dinosaurs or responsibility of being a counselor or anything like that. She's just kind of there. She's just kind of there for Lauren, which honestly, good job being a good friend. But there are definitely some times where she could be a bit of a better counselor. But she's got that fun charisma that I think makes her probably the most enjoyable character to watch.
She's also one of the few characters that has some of the more consistently relatable reactions to the dinosaurs, because like a lot of the people in this show just like do not react adequately for what they're witnessing.
They handle it really well. The knowledge of dinosaurs existing. Like when they finally tell, so they don't know that. So
I think Chris threw kind of a fit.
Well, no, because Chris doesn't know about dinosaurs for the longest time until like the fourth to the last episode. Then when they reveal it to him, so he gets like this giant bear net thrown on top of him by the diggers. The diggers stole this bear net. We can get to why they have a bear net in a second, or in a little bit. Well, hello there. This is Editing Eric here, and I'm here to tell you that we indeed did not get back to the subject of where the diggers got the bear net from. So I'm here to tell you that they stole it. They stole it from a man called Dr. Akins. Who is Dr. Akins, you might ask? Well, we will actually get to him in a second. So just wait and find out there. But they throw this over him, right? And then Lauren comes and saves him. That's when they save him with the bow. She saves him with the bow, right? The diggers
You're right.
The bow that way. Yep. Chris reacts pretty, like, what on earth is this? These monsters, right? Lauren had told him like the scene before that there were dinosaurs, and he didn't believe her. But then after that scene, they're walking back.
Convenient timing by the diggers, by the way.
What was that?
It's a convenient timing by the diggers.
Very convenient timing by the diggers to reveal themselves after Lauren says that there's real dinosaurs. So, but then after that scene, we just see two of them casually walking back, and Chris is just like, wow, real dinosaurs. That's amazing.
Yeah.
he handles it really well. In my opinion.
Almost relationship wise, it almost just serves to make it so he's not a roadblock for them anymore, because he understands why they've been a pain in the butt. To collaborate with over the normal camp activities.
I will say, because we just talked about Courtney being my favorite character, Chris is definitely my least favorite character in the show. I feel like, I think a lot of his concerns, when you actually kind of think about him, are valid. So he's very uptight, and he's very gets upset when the other counselors are shaking their duties, or potentially putting the kids in danger and stuff, which are very valid concerns, right? But his acting and the way he's written, it comes off as a lot more like annoying and naggy. And it's just kind of like, it personally kind of would annoy me in some scenes. I was just like, bro, like, come on. So yeah, Chris I think is kind of a little bit on the annoying side. Everyone else I think is fine. Quite a few of them are just kind of boring. Lauren and Kit are kind of boring. There's nothing too crazy about them. Lauren really likes Eno. She really likes her dad. She wants to find her dad. Kit's just like there to support her,
Crazy character development.
Before we forget to mention it, the pretty obvious thing is it's implied at the very beginning of the show that Chris and Lauren used to kind of tentatively be a thing or had interest in one another. And,
I don't remember them teasing it that was before. They definitely teased that's now a thing.
Well, Courtney was trying to encourage Lauren to go up on it, and I maybe
Yes.
it's more subtext that I was picking up on that was not intentional by the writers. I
Okay.
would not be surprised. But like, regardless, that's how like they set it up. Was like, you know, Lauren's supposed to be with Chris, and then you know, Courtney has her summer project with Kit. But then it flip flops, and like they just start building up Chris and Courtney as kind of a thing, and,
That's what I thought.
Kit and Lauren very much as a thing.
That's what I thought they were going to do. So Chris makes Courtney, the only two characters I say that are very like clearly interested in another one are Courtney's clearly interested in Kit. Chris is clearly interested in Lauren, right? And Lauren, like, again, maybe there's a line of dialogue.
Lauren and
that
Kit
I'm
don't
forgetting.
admit it, but it's pretty obvious.
Yeah. Well, I would say like with Lauren and Chris, Lauren never like explicitly says she's not into him, but she doesn't say that she's not. And kind of the same thing with Kit. Though she does say that Kit's like just her friend, though it's kind of hard to tell with the writing of the show like how genuine that is. Like they got this whole the show throws in like this whole complex like relationship dynamic between the characters that I don't know. It's not super
really
investing for me because like none of them really have that good chemistry with each other, you know.
And nothing really exciting ever develops from it.
Nothing exciting develops. The only big thing is there's one episode where Courtney sees Lauren with Kit, and then gets like mad at her for stealing her summer project, right? And is just kind of, you know, rude to her throughout the episode. But then they solve that and figure that out. And it's not really that relevant to the plot or anything. It's just kind of it's just kind of there. You know, like it's present, but like it's not super notable.
And I don't want to spoil much about the ending yet, but because I don't want to forget this detail when we get there, none of the romantic threads are actually resolved at the end of the story. Like they are all left completely untouched.
No, we never learn. The characters begin and end the show in the exact same like relationship positions with each other that they finish it, right? Like nothing changes.
Except I guess Kit and Lauren didn't really know each other or weren't that close before, but they're much closer now.
They're clearly much closer now, but other than that, the dynamics don't really change, despite the fact that they keep hinting at like characters like potentially changing it or something like that, but it never goes anywhere. Like they literally just forget about it almost.
They had the perfect setup. All the pieces were in play, and like for a romantic switcheroo, and like, oh, Lauren's supposed to be with Chris, but she ends up with Kit, kind of thing. Like it was all there, and they don't capitalize on any of it. Like none of it's paid off.
On any of it. It doesn't pay any of it off. It's very silly.
They don't even say they like each other. They don't kiss. Nothing. Like no hand holding.
No.
Not
Like
even a hug, right?
I don't even think they hug.
Yeah. Nothing at all.
The actors were too young. They couldn't consent to any of it.
They were too young at the time. Yeah.
No hugging pre-marriage.
Yeah.
So we got those guys. Oh, we need to talk about our main villain. So our main villain of the show, other than the Diggers, our main human villain is a guy called Dr. Akins. He's set up at the beginning having like it seems like him and Lauren's mom have like a somewhat romantic relationship going on, but like neither one of them wants to admit it at the time, right? You know? Like I remember at one point, like Lauren's mom said like, oh, I'm not together with Akins. And I think Aiden was like, oh, I just assumed that they were because of the way that they were acting, right? But he's our main villain on the human side. So he's a paleontologist. But he's kind of got this interesting view of dinosaurs where he's like, oh, he's like a 1920s paleontologist where he's like, these guys, they were vicious beasts, right? That, you know, if they were alive today, they'd like take over the world or something like that. He, over time, throughout the story, learns about the existence of these dinosaurs, right? Starting off with... So, at camp, side note, they've got a dinosaur dig that all the kids are participating in. Like, they're actually digging up dinosaur bones, right? Which is like...
Albertosaurus
specifically. Which is like... like,
which is a notable one in particular. Oh, and like a fully articulated Albertosaurus, mind you. Like,
they're letting kids touch.
It is the full, like, we don't know if it's 100% complete skeleton, but it is an articulated skeleton.
It is an articulated skeleton, and they're letting these 6-year-olds dig it up. Which, I mean, like...
Yeah, I mean, Is that called a slab when it's, like, in one piece like that? Is that what they call it? A slab or something like that?
It might be. But yeah, it's like a slab of Albertosaurus. Like, it's like... It's clearly a really good-looking specimen. And it's like... Though obviously I think that there are some fossil digging opportunities that exist in various places for kids to do. And I think that they're a really great opportunity to like get interested in paleontology. But they're always with like really low stakes things like ammonite shells, right? Where it's like...
Or teeth.
Yeah, where it's like there's a million of those, right? I don't think anyone would be having children digging up these really nice dinosaur specimens.
At best, maybe one of the paleontologists lets their kid come up and pet one.
Yeah.
Like pet the rock or something. You're not going to let a kid wield a weapon near it.
So that was like, what is you doing? But so, at one point in the episode, Akins is there, and he finds, Danny finds the bone originally, but then Aiken takes it. One of the Albertosaurus
You should
bones,
mention that there's this like competitive subplot with the two twins and Dr. Akins too.
Yeah. They have
and he's always giving them projects.
Yeah. He is giving them projects.
He's just trying to figure it out. Yeah.
So Akins, he takes the bone from her, right? And the bone, it has an arrowhead in it. Specifically, an arrowhead from like, I don't know, the last few hundred years. I guess it doesn't really matter like when it is. It's clearly a human-made arrowhead, right? In the Albertosaurus bone. So now, clearly what they're trying to set up is this is how Akins learns, like, oh, the dinosaurs didn't go extinct. They were still around, and they were hunted by the Native Americans, right? Sure.
Yep.
But...
Young Earth creationists everywhere stood up and cheered.
Yes.
They all cheered.
But, however, that's not the position that this show has, because this show clearly is going with the evolved dinosaur thing, right? They've been alive, they've evolved, they've changed. Yeah. Albertosaurus would not still be around today. Why are they finding an arrowhead in this Albertosaurus bone? Also, how would they not know this is more recent? Like, if this is the last few hundred years, this Albertosaurus bone should not be, like, in rock. It should just be, like, in dirt.
It should be, like, an artifact. It should be borderline just an artifact. Like, it's nuts because this is either, like, throwing humans way further back in time, or it's like suggesting that Albertosaurus like existed way past the KT extinction, and in that way it's like, okay, well, so not all the dinosaurs are hyper evolved, and if there is Albertosaurus inside of this dinosaur world, so only some of the dinosaurs have like changed a lot, but some of them are like unchanged, like a freaking crocodile or a triop or something, or like a gar, like they're just like unchanged since the Cretaceous.
Maybe Tyrannosaurus just found the peak form, and that's why they're awesome, dude.
Yeah, I mean, that could be.
They didn't have to evolve.
Ask any Rexy fan from Jurassic Park.
Maybe they're just a Tyrannosaur that they're just assuming are Albertosaurus, right? You know, they're in the field or something like that. I don't know. Who knows what's going on? But I think the true answer is that the producers just didn't think that hard about it. And that's how this happened. But Akins
honestly, it borderline gives me the vibes of like they kind of came up with that idea maybe on the spot. Like they were just like, oh, we gotta hint at the fact that like we have some breadcrumb that like proves to Dr. Akins that the dinosaurs are here, and they're like, put an arrowhead in the dinosaur bone. And earlier on in the show, they're like, what dinosaur could it be? I don't know. Like, don't make it too obvious. Make it like, kind of cool and unique. Ooh, Albertosaurus. Not quite T-Rex.
Yeah, we're in Alberta, obviously. Alberta. I mean, it is an accurate find
proud of
for
our
Alberta.
Canadian dinosaur.
Yeah, exactly. Being proud of their Canadian dinosaur. But then this begins to set Akins off on wondering if they are still around today. And eventually, I forget what it is, but he begins to find more evidence of it. He goes off, he tries to hunt Eno at one point with the tranquilizer gun. That's how the diggers get the tranquilizer gun. They get it from him. They steal it from him.
Mm.
And then he begins to set up this whole plan of trying to find the dinosaurs and basically destroy, if not them, their openings to the overworld, right? Like he thinks that the dinosaurs are a major threat. He thinks they're gonna overthrow humans, right?
So I'm like, bro, why are you a paleontologist if you hate them so much?
Yeah, no,
This is like Camp Cretaceous meets Open Season plot.
Yeah. No, like, dude, we gotta emphasize, he hates dinosaurs. He thinks that they're monsters. They are these horrible creatures that will destroy us all.
Yeah, because he kind of starts off and he kind of goes for a more righteous angle, like you could still maybe argue that, like, oh yeah, he's a paleontologist, he thinks dinosaurs are cool, but like he's convinced that they will be the end of us. Like they were the most dominant life forms back then, and they will dominate us now. But then, like, as the show gets closer to its climax, he just straight up, like, yells at these things, "Monster! It's a monster! That beast could have torn me in half!" Like, all this stuff. Like, I mean, he is just, like, he is 100% in on them just being completely, like, horrific creatures.
Yeah.
Guys, I have a theory.
What's your theory?
The dinosaurs didn't naturally die in between Jurassic World movies. Dr. Ankins hunted them all down, and they had to go to remote locations for Jurassic World Rebirth.
He showed up after Dominion, and he killed them all. Of course. How could this is so obvious in hindsight. That's clearly what happened.
It all makes sense.
But yeah, as Aiden also said before, he's got this kind of relationship with Nelson and Danny where he's giving them like these little projects and stuff to go off and do, where they kind of are unintentionally gathering some evidence for him that the dinosaurs are real. But Nelson and Danny are also like very into like uncovering what's going on here, because they realize that something weird's going on. The counselors are hiding stuff. So they try to do a lot of spying on them, try to figure stuff out. There's one time where Nelson, he gets this spy kit for his birthday, apparently. And he puts like a microphone in Courtney's hoodie so they can listen to her doing things. For some reason, they don't, because while she has this microphone in her hoodie, she gets chased by one of the diggers. And they don't really seem to hear that, but then they're listening when the digger accidentally swallows the microphone. Because she drops it. She drops the microphone and the digger swallows it. And then they hear like the gurgling noises inside. I don't know how that's all they heard.
Yeah, I don't remember. How does he get this spy kit?
I think it was for his birthday.
Did he bring it with him?
He must have brought it with him. Maybe his parents shipped it to him.
It was sent to him for his birthday.
Yeah, maybe they sent it to him.
I think it was mailed to him for his birthday.
Okay, it was mailed to him. So they decided while he was at, like, well, one, conveniently for the plot, but two, for their child that's off at camp with a bunch of other kids, they're like, yeah, let's send him some spying equipment. What are these parents thinking? I don't understand.
Well, because I think clearly they're kind of these cheap spying things for kids, right? I mean, like, they're not like anything super crazy. Like, I mean, like, those exist, right? I'm sure you remember the ads from them when we were kids.
Yeah, but it's also 2007, and like the range on that microphone was kind of ridiculous.
That is true. I forget how far it operates, but apparently it operates like miles. Like, it's like pretty impressive.
I remember, like, you know, even like night vision goggles that you could get at that like time were like the cheapest, like, most, and like also like walkie-talkies when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, in 2007, I was 7. I was playing with walkie-talkies that, like, if you went too far upstairs, they would stop working.
Yeah.
Like,
because they're pretty cheap little kid things, right?
Yeah. But so, like, what?
That
what
is true.
This kit?
This is pretty advanced. But the other really funny thing is he gets a infrared goggles, right? So he can see thermal heat with them. But it's so silly because he's using them during the day. And it's like, my boy, if you should be able to see all of the things that you are trying to see with these thermal goggles with just your eyes, right? Like, there's not like you're trying to find anything that's hidden. Like, but they use it multiple times. Like, they act as though like they're being able to see things that they can't normally see. I'm just like, dude, like, yes, so like if it's that obvious and clear on these thermal goggles, then it should be like that in real life. And the thermal effect is also really, really cheesy, right? I think clearly they just like filmed it and then they added like in post, they added some effects over it.
Like most of the things in this show.
Other notable thing that I thought was interesting. So at one point the kids find Eno's blood and they look at it they're like, we need to look at this and analyze it under a microscope. And I was just like, like, you guys are like 7. Like, what are you going to be able to tell? He's like, it's got red blood cells in it? Whoa, no way. like I'm just like, what are you going to be able to figure out from this blood? But they look at it under a microscope and they see it's got the red blood cells have a nucleus in it. And apparently, I actually learned this and then looked this up from our recent watch of the show. Mammal blood cells don't have a nucleus in them, but like most other animals' blood cells do, right? So because that, they could figure out that this is not a mammal that left this blood. Because there's so much blood, it must be big. So it's like, oh, it's got to be either a bird or a reptile.
You know damn well that the writers of the show looked up something that they could do to try and like lead the kids on. They're like, what can we do? And they reverse engineered that. They're like, oh, this is a way they could figure out without seeing the dinosaurs that there's something that's big and reptilian in there.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's in there.
But just in general, right? Also, the characters are really good at figuring out things with like limited information. Like, they're able to jump to the correct conclusion with like hardly any information. It's actually pretty impressive when you think about it. that they're so good at this. And
they just barely let Akins actually throw them off multiple times, but they eventually start to catch on that he's like trying to keep them from, or just take their stuff and like keep them from figuring out too much.
Yeah. I think that's kind of most of the character dynamics and major plot lines.
There's the hillbilly hunter dudes.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. There's the hillbilly hunters, right? So there's these poachers, right? Who they're like these like kind of cartoony stereotypes of like these idiot Looney Tune hunters, Elmer Fudd type, right? They show up in one episode early on, trying to trap just animals, and they end up trapping Eno. There's this plot line that develops where like Eno gets scared by them, and then he's scared of people. He's scared of Lauren, but then that luckily drops in the next episode where he gets used to Lauren again. It was a very quick character arc. And then
that seems to happen a lot.
I want to use one point to illustrate just how comically idiotic these dudes are, because when when they're convinced the second time by Dr. Akins to go after Eno to like kill him or like to capture him.
Yeah, this is in the second to last episode. So they show up like in episode 5 or something like that, and then they show up again in like the 2 last episodes.
Yeah, and when they're like talking to each other and like trying to rally up some encouragement to go and get Eno, they, instead of, like, it's super surface level. You could be like, oh man, like, in so many Bigfoot movies you've seen, like, somebody wants to catch or kill Bigfoot so they can make money or be famous or get attention because they kill Bigfoot. This is a dinosaur, a Dinosapien.
Which is what I thought Akins was after.
Yeah.
It's just the fame.
Yeah. Neither of them suggest this idea. It doesn't even cross their mind. The first thing they say is like, man, when we get this thing, I'm going to turn it into a nice pair of boots. That's where their brain goes.
Yeah.
Like, they go to just making this dinosaur into boots that nobody's gonna know what the hell it is. Like, I mean, they're comically stupid.
They are. They're idiots.
I mean, I think they were kind of written like that too, to be honest. But because they're really dumb.
Duh.
But they're also clearly poor as crap. They could really use the money from this if they captured Eno and somehow profited off of it. But they are so dumb, they can't even figure that out for themselves because they're stealing plants because they think it's gonna. I think there was one of them said something they're gonna like sell it or something like that, or they're just taking like junk out of a building and they find it to be treasure. They're like, score, dude, and like I don't know.
Well, no, that was when I think that was early on. That's when they needed a spring because their spring broke and they needed a spring, so that's what they were doing. They were there specifically for the spring.
They were looking for a spring for their bear trap.
Yeah.
Well, they were with Akins when he was telling them to not.
Akins told them to grab all that stuff because it was evidence for him.
He was eating a tomato plant because he was like, I need to get a snack in or something. And Akins was like, no, I need that in my research. Yeah. And then he just took the whole plant with him.
But yeah, there's those guys. There's an episode. So the episode actually leads perfectly into this because the episode after the episode that they scare Eno, right? Lauren tries to convince Eno to be her friend again, and tries to do this by just feeding him hot dogs. Like, so many hot dogs.
Was it a bucket or was it a bag of glizzies? I forget.
She's got a whole tub of glizzies that Eno eats. He then finds more in their camp and he eats more. They're trying to lure him away to a spot with glizzies. There's so many hot dogs. He eats like all of them. It's actually really impressive.
Like, it's actually so many hot dogs that it makes you wonder, like, you guys did not even need that many hot dogs for the camp. Why do you have that many hot dogs? The only way it would make sense is if you're eating hot dogs every day for, like, lunch and dinner and you're feeding all those kids for that shit. Like, there was no reason to have that many hot dogs.
There are so many hot dogs, bro.
It reminds me of, like, just other things that don't make sense to have a bunch of, because towards the end, when Eno gets trapped, they have the two dudes and they have like that bucket full of mouse traps. Just like a bunch of mouse traps for like no reason.
No reason. And he gets a mouse trap stuck on every finger.
That were apparently all activated.
Yeah, they're all like
they're all ready to go.
Loaded.
Yeah, like they're all set and ready to go.
Yeah, they're all set and just in a tub, like just loosely scattered in a tub.
Which
all
honestly,
set.
Because those things are sensitive. Like keeping set mousetraps in a tub, that's impressive in itself too.
Yeah, they had to have delicately put those things down on top of each other, like a Jenga game or something.
And then later on, as time progresses, Eno. He's reading a magazine, right? As he does, right? He's looking through a magazine, and he sees the classic image of Benjamin Franklin with his kite in the lightning storm, right? And Eno goes, "What if I too can do that?" So then he goes.
Is that how he got the inspiration for that? I forgot.
Yeah.
Yep,
so then Lauren gave him a picture of herself, and her house is behind it. And he uses this picture to find her house. I guess maybe he's seen it around somewhere. Or maybe he's a really good geoguesser. I don't know. But he finds her house. So he finds her house.
Oh my god, he's a good geoguesser. That's so funny.
So he finds her house. He goes in. He starts raiding her stuff. This is also the episode where he gains the ability to speak. Like, it's kind of just like a skill he unlocks. Like, it's just like suddenly he can do it. And he's just saying a whole bunch of words. It's... but so he raids her house. He gets all this stuff. He basically, the whole kite and string and a clothesline and stuff. And he flies this in a lightning storm and lightning hits it. And it's like sustained and held like on this thing that he made. So then he continues with that and he builds this big contraption with like wires and a car battery and stuff like that to do something with to do something with electricity with. And it's just like we've never seen him do like anything technological before, and now he's just like building this electronic contraption, which is pretty strange. It's, I think,
and it doesn't even show it like in progress or whatever. Like,
no,
it's just like he's collecting things and then it's built.
Eno was able to build this thing in a valley with a box of scraps.
Exactly.
Iron Man, please.
And I think it's kind of implied that Lauren's dad taught him. So if you haven't been able to tell by the review yet, we learned throughout the course of the show that Lauren's dad is alive and he's with the dinosaurs underground, right? And Eno knows Lauren's dad. It's kind of implied that like Eno learned how to build this from her dad, I think. But like, I'm not too sure how or why. Like, why did he teach him how to build this? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It is interesting. But he's got this
Because
crazy...
Maybe, well, Ten Bears does tell us that this is a prophecy that the Thunderbird will come and, like, smite the Unkate. So, like, I don't know if, like, maybe Alan knew about this prophecy and Eno knew about this prophecy, and so they were like, we gotta harness the power of the Thunderbird.
Yeah.
There may have been some intention, but any kind of intentionality like that is lost in translation because it's not made clear.
Let's see, there's an episode where the diggers, they kidnap Lauren. They take her to their underground caves.
And this is where she gets her minor payoff for her athletic problems.
Yeah, because the diggers, they set a trap was designed for Eno, which is basically just a whole bunch of spikes on the ground. And she like jumps over it. Like she hesitates for a moment, then she jumps over it. And that's what it is. That's what she does.
Oh, you're
like,
right.
And
that is okay. So we did revisit the gymnast thing once.
Yeah, and she does that trying to escape from them, right? And as soon as she jumps over, Sarepta's just on the other side and kidnaps her again. So it didn't serve much of a purpose.
It was futile.
But it was very futile. But, at least she tried.
It really is like, oh, guys, we need to, like, wrap up that gymnast arc thing. We forgot about that. Oh, yeah. We'll make some small pit with some spikes and just make her jump over it.
Yeah.
Is that really a gymnast thing? Well, I mean, just jump. Okay, fine, we'll do it. But she can't leave yet. We need them to rescue her. I don't know, just make them kidnap her again.
Yes. And that whole time, the diggers, they also stole. So Lauren gives this like baby toy to Eno that like you hit the button, it's like bird. Can you say bird to like try to teach him how to talk, right? And the diggers like steal it, and so the whole time that she's in the mines with the diggers, she just sees them playing with this toy and like learning how to speak. And I personally think I'm not. Yeah, they sound like that. I'm not a big fan of their voice. It's
just like a human kind of speaking like really basally, and then and I mean basally as in like not very sophisticated or like civilized, and it's just really low
core bird.
What do you call it? Not low tune. It's just a
low frequency.
Really did. Yeah, they tuned it and like filtered it to be only like really low.
Yeah, low pitch.
Bassy.
Yeah, low pitch. They pitched it down.
Yeah. Eno's voice sounds pretty decent, in my opinion.
Who's this?
Lauren. Father Alan.
He is really good at learning speech. Like he gets it the first try every time. Like there's no challenge. But
oh my god! How have we not made the connection of the Velociraptor in the damn airplane in Jurassic Park 3 saying Alan?
Oh my gosh!
He literally
right.
says Alan so many times.
You're right.
How have we not drawn that connection?
You're right.
Alan.
That's like the biggest Jurassic Park meme. How have we not thought about that?
I know, and he literally says Alan all the time.
I always wonder if they named Lauren's dad Alan because of Alan Grant. Like if they named him for that purpose.
Somebody had to have been having fun while making this show.
Yeah. I mean, it could be a coincidence, but it might not be. That could definitely have been an intentional thing.
I press X to doubt. It was, I think that has to be intentional.
Yeah.
Alan. I love how it goes from vicious looking Velociraptor that says Alan to Alan.
Alan.
With this dorky dude with the hairdo.
Yeah.
And it's one thing too that I was actually thinking about after finishing the show. I kind of appreciate the voice they gave to Eno. It sounds very parrot-like in the way
it does sound very parrot-like, yeah.
Which, I mean, the speed at which he learns things is crazy, but still, like, it sounds very parrot-like.
Dinosapien,
and they convinced it, yeah. But it also made me think, like, very briefly, I'm like, this would be a cool concept to play around with in a future Jurassic movie if the raptors are getting smarter or something, like mimicry with humans and their voices or something.
Yeah.
Random thought I had. I think it would be cool for like a horror element.
It certainly could be possible. I mean, it's one of those things where it's hard to say exactly what the vocal systems of, dinosaurs was like, if it was similar to birds or not. Because birds are really good at mimicking other noises if that wasn't obvious by the existence of parrots. But other birds like starlings and crows can also mimic human speech and other noises.
Or a lyre.
Yeah, and I think that's in large part due to their syrinx, and birds just kind of have a little bit more of a complex vocal system than other animals. But it's hard to say how when that evolved. Like it's hard to know if that was something that raptors had, or not.
Yeah.
But it certainly could be possible. And like, regardless, especially if they're really intelligent, I could definitely see how,
if they're already genetically modified, I'm like, this would be a cool concept to play with if they've got bird DNA.
100%. And it's clear specifically if we're talking about the Jurassic World ones. I mean, they clearly can communicate with each other in complex ways. Like, it would not surprise me if they could mimic human speech.
Anyways, random side tangent, but something I thought about that this show gave me an idea for future.
But anyway, so then eventually Lauren gets rescued by Kit and Eno. Kit was kind of like ignoring Eno for a while, even though Eno knew
that was so frustrating.
That was fairly
so
frustrating.
Mad at him.
We're just like, dude, he clearly is trying to tell you to go someplace. He says a line that I thought was really funny when Eno is just done with him and then runs off. Like, I guess I'll do it myself. He yells at Eno like, if you get lost, you're on your own. I'm just like, bro, he lives here. Like, what do you mean he's gonna get lost? He clearly knows what he's doing.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but anyways, they go and they save Lauren. The diggers accidentally cause a cave-in. Kid and Lauren get out. They all get trapped in there. The next episode's all about them trying to save them. We get some kind of interesting digger biology too, where we learn that like they'll smack their tails on the ground to communicate across long distances, which they do. Mm-hmm. And then eventually they do find Eno. They get Eno and the diggers out of the cave. That's kind of that whole plot line. Characters have no peripheral vision in this show. Like it is comedic how often like something will be happening or another character will be sneaking up behind someone and like you should be able to see that other character or that dinosaur over there, but they just don't. I remember there's one scene where like Lauren sees the diggers and the diggers have eyes on the side of their head, so in theory they should be able to see her because she's like on the side of them, but they just don't for some reason somehow. Yep. And then the only other thing is there's a shot where they're trying to take pictures of the Albertosaurus fossil, and they have a tripod, and they like can't operate this tripod. They need someone to help. I'm just like, it's a tripod. How can you not get this tripod to stand? Like they're all. Her mom's getting all like angry at Lauren. Like Lauren needs to be here to help me with this tripod standing. I'm just like, what? You can't operate this tripod by yourself, and this like falling over all the time. And it's just like, what? What is this?
And what's even funnier is it's like clearly on competent ground to set up a tripod on, and the tripod has adjustable legs and everything.
It's wild, bro. It's wild.
It's so funny. One of my favorite moments too, which is just a highlight for me. Very gifable. You can put the gif on screen, Eric, but Eno just snatching Courtney.
Yes,
was one of my favorite moments visually in the show.
That's the episode when the diggers kidnap Lauren. Eno then immediately kidnaps Courtney.
It's the kidnapping episode.
It's the kidnapping episode. He doesn't do it very long. He's basically just trying to get her away from the camp, and then Kit follows and finds them, and then they go off to try to save Lauren from there. But it's a really funny shot. It's really good. I'm happy you brought that up, David.
Also, one thing that's very interesting too, I think, is interesting. My headset hit my microphone. I think it's an interesting production, note to make about the show. They had practical hand puppets for both the diggers and for Eno.
They did. For the diggers?
Multiple shots. Yeah, I think they had the diggers in one or two shots. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And they were just gloves or whatever that were used, but I mean, interesting. They tried to intertwine visual effects or practical effects into the making of the show.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean they're not crazy puppets. They don't look super convincing.
They're not.
But they're still there. It's pretty cool. Let's see, is there anything else other than the finale? Is there anything else notable that you guys want to talk about?
Not that I can think of at the moment.
I feel like there's something, but I can't think of it right now.
Do we want to talk about 10 Bears at all?
Oh, yes.
Racism.
Absolutely. This show is low-key racist.
It is. I can't believe we didn't think about that.
It's not horrible. I've seen way worse. But
we've seen that's worse, why I said still low-key racist. It's it's racist out of overly stereotyping. It's not like trying to it's not being like intentionally negative, but like every time 10 Bears is on screen, he has a theme song and it goes really intense in a Native American style. I love Native American music. I actually think it's the best music in the show, hands down. Really good stuff. But it is like, it is night day. Like, you can't ignore it. Like, as soon as he shows up, it's the cedar flutes in there. And there was one point where he was talking to, like, Kit, and they were having, like, an uncle to nephew kind of, like, heart-to-heart moment. Yeah. And it even has, like, these, like, really, like, kind of noticeable, low-key distracting vocals. And they're like, and like in the back, and it's a little much. Like, they were a little heavy-handed with the Native American references.
What I think is interesting is because, like, in some ways, like, Kit is not depicted that bad at all, right? Even though he's Native American. It's like specifically 10 Bears. And it's not everything about him, right? Like, he lives in like a normal house and stuff.
But everything about his atmosphere and like his presence is like, he's the intense, mysterious guy. He's got shades on and stuff when you first see him. And like, he's just like following like tracks and like picking up stuff off the ground and just looking at it until, you know, eventually you get to know more about it.
He also makes a pickle sandwich.
He does make a pickle sandwich. There is that one scene where he's investigating the Digger's lair, and they try to ambush him, but then he speaks to them in Sioux.
He doesn't even turn around. He literally talks to them with his back facing them. He's such a Chad. He literally is not even afraid of them.
And it's not super clear if the Diggers understand him or not. They almost act a little bit like they do.
I definitely got the impression that they understood him.
Yeah.
Like, it seemed like they were a little hesitant to listen to him, but like, he genuinely spoke with authority, and it, like, when it first happened, I thought that he was kind of in on something with them, or that they weren't as bad as they were going to later be revealed. Yeah, like, no, straight up, these guys are bad, and like, the show does not want to be painting these guys as good at all. But like, because of how, like, civilized of a discussion he ends up having with them, where he just kind of wards them off, and they listen and leave, like, I was just like, okay. I mean, they clearly respect this guy enough to, like, or, like, respect his authority enough to, like, not harm him.
Who knows? Maybe it was just that, like the thing that happens with a lot of animals, where, like, even if they don't understand the words you speak, like, they can understand, like, the tone of your voice and kind of know, like, your mood and, like, how you're treating the situation.
I thought they even tried to kind of talk to him, or like they were talking to each other at least. Like,
they were talking to each other
back and forth.
They were chirping to each other. I don't think they tried to talk to him at all. Oh, the Dickers, I should also say, they talk a lot with hand signals. Like, they'll rub their arms against each other, but it seems like it's always the same hand signal. So how they're able to convey complex information, I don't know. But they're clearly trying to do something. But yeah, and then later on we learned that apparently 10 Bears is the last gatekeeper. So gatekeepers are people who know where the portals to the dinosaur world open, and they know about the dinosaurs. And apparently he's the last one of these guys. He helps heal Eno when he's sick. He gets a cold from Courtney.
Although he does kind of start to pass that mantle on to Kit, or at least Kit is like, oh, do you think I'm ready to be a gatekeeper? And he's like, he says something like,
yes.
Get there.
The show very much implies that Kit is now going to be training to become the next gatekeeper. And he does help Eno when he's sick. With a flower, I was curious if the flower was real. It's called the sand dune wall flower, I think is what I remember it being called. But I looked it up, and that flower is an actual thing that it does exist. And apparently it was actually used for medicinal purposes by Native Americans. So I'm like, okay, so that's cool. That's legit.
That went kind of hard. Like, Eno was like just straight up gonna die.
Oh, yeah. It's like one episode. He's like he gets a cold. He's gonna die if they don't find this medicine. And then luckily and the medicine works really quickly. Like, it's like a couple hours and he's fine.
Just a couple hours in a cave with a burning flower, and you're good.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, he doesn't need to ingest it. They just burn it like an incense, and he breathes.
That's another thing I thought was funny. Is throughout the whole show they reference multiple times that, like, Eno will be safe in the Badlands. Like, they try to get Eno away from the forest and the camp where he is, and try to get him to the Badlands where he'll be safe. When they're in the Badlands, in that scene, when they end it, they're like, okay, let's take you back to your cabin where you're safe. And they're in the Badlands when this is happening. I'm just like, so where is Eno safe? Is he safe in the Badlands or back in the cabin? Because in the next episode, they're like, we need to get you to the Badlands.
He can never be where he's current at. He can never be where he's at.
He's never safe where he is.
Yeah.
He just has to be somewhere else. Yeah, okay, let's talk about the finale. The finale is technically one episode, but I'm going to consider the finale the last 2 episodes, because they're kind of revolve around the end of the show, right? Episodes 14 and 15. So we start off with them telling Eno that a new portal is going to open soon. They need to get him there. So they try to get Eno to the Badlands. He wants to take his electrical contraption with him for some reason. And Akins at this point has teamed up with the poachers, and then they corner Eno, and then they have a whole thing of trying to capture Eno throughout the whole episode. And then eventually Akins gets him at the end, right? He tranks him and gets Eno, puts him in a horse cage, and then takes him out to the Badlands. And the counselors, they're all trying to, get there and save Eno, do all these things. 10 Bears and Kit end up taking Eno's electrical contraption. They bring it to the Badlands because I guess they thought that'd be a good idea. So at this point we learn that Akins is going to try to blow up the portals to the dinosaur world with dynamite. He's got crates of dynamite, right? And he's going to try to ignite it all and blow it all up. Just destroy it all, right? So that way dinosaurs can't get to the overworld anymore. And he's going to use Eno as bait, I guess. I guess maybe to bring them up closer so that way he can actually blow them up specifically. I'm not too sure. His plan is a little unclear of exactly what he's trying to do, but it's bad, right? He's being bad and evil. But then Lauren shows up and is able to save Eno, gets him to escape from Akins. So then they go off. They find Kit and 10 Bears at the electrical contraption, and then the diggers show up. And also at this time, Akins is like, well, Eno might have got away, but I'm still going to try to blow him up anyways. He goes off to set up his dynamite, right? So the diggers show up at the electrical contraption. 10 Bears and Kit use their fancy shiny shields, which have shown up earlier. We didn't talk about them. But they've got these shields that are very shiny that they bend the light from the sun to flash in the diggers' eyes, and the diggers don't like that, as we've established. So they get the diggers to run away, right? And the diggers are there in the Badlands because they're also looking for the opening for the portal. They're trying to, I guess I interpret it as the diggers are trying to get back home. But it's interesting because throughout the show, and especially at that scene, 10 Bears talks to the diggers as you guys should have gone back to where you are. You've been in this world for too long. But I'm like, dude, I think that's what they're trying to do. I think they're trying to get back. I think they're actively trying to go back to where they are. Maybe they were thinking they had an idea of maybe what they're actually trying to bring more of their kind to the overworld, but they never say that. It seems to me more like they're trying to get back, right? So at this part, it kind of feels like, I don't know, to me, even though the diggers are evil, it does feel a little bit like, oh, but dude, that's just what they're trying to do. They just want to get back home.
Yeah, it's very much just, I guess, implied by Akins that it could be the potential.
Yeah.
Of what would result of it. Even though, these portals, as far as we know, have been opening and closing for a long time. Yeah. And at most, just a couple little stragglers have come out and in over the years.
Yeah. There's no reason to think that would change. It's really funny. But while they're shining their fancy shields in the diggers' eyes, right? The actual Thunderbird appears over the top of their head. You might have figured out at this point, by the way we've been talking about, that the Thunderbird is a real thing in this show.
I don't know if we have made it that clear, because it was made out metaphorically, they keep talking about it, the Thunderbird, this and that, and then they make a contraption that lightning strikes and it amplifies or redirects the power of the lightning. And So I totally thought that the Thunderbird was just going to be a metaphorical thing, and they were going to get struck by lightning, or the machine was going to take care of them.
I thought Eno was the metaphorical Thunderbird.
Yeah, exactly. They were both these guys were convinced while they were watching it. Well, not convinced, but were theorizing that Eno might be the actual Thunderbird. And every time they said it in my head, I was just like, oh, these guys have no idea. They don't know. They don't know that. Because I didn't remember too much about the show because it's been over a decade since I'd seen it. I remembered quite a bit at the beginning, and I remembered the finale that the Thunderbird shows up. And the Thunderbird shows up. It's overhead. It's like, it literally looks like the symbol that they draw.
Yeah, that's my favorite part. Is that it just is like, because like I could have guessed that the Thunderbird actually showed up. I probably would have guessed it as a joke. But like we earlier on, I think you kind of spoiled for us because we were like anticipating more dinosaurs showing up, and you spoiled for us. You're like trying to keep our hopes in check, and you were like, no, the Diggers and Eno are the only dinosaurs you're going to see. So I just assumed, like, I guess in the back of my head that just we weren't going to see anything else of like even similar, because even a Thunderbird would have been like, you know, a model of something. So I just figured we're not seeing it. It's going to be metaphorical. Thunderbird shows up. And
it's made of clouds, by the way. It's not like it's like made of clouds.
It's made of clouds. Like there's maybe a split second where you're like anticipating something else coming out, but then you notice that just the symbol, the shape that you've seen carved in things and that's tattooed on 10 bears, it is just the symbol. Yeah. Straight up. Unadulterated, exactly verbatim, the symbol in the sky and like made of clouds.
Yeah, the Thunderbird's like this spiritual thing, and it's just like, it's so, because like this show is like, it's realistic in the sense of like there's nothing magical happening, right? So like this thing just comes out of nowhere, where it's just like, whoa, like there's this giant spirit god thing that just made of clouds that just shows up. And it scares the Diggers away. They run around the corner. It's apparently just around the corner is where Akins is setting up his dynamite. They find Akins. They get distracted. Akins runs away. They're checking out his dynamite. And the classic Diggers are fascinated by
because they're obsessed with picking up weapons.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So they look at this thing. The Thunderbird then shoots a bolt of lightning. Not at them, which you'd think it could do, but it doesn't do that. It shoots lightning at Eno's electrical thing, which then shoots lightning towards where the Diggers are. It hits the dynamite and then blows them up and kills them, right?
And we actually did not think they were dead at first, because it was just like instantly like little just like a pop and like, oh, they're gonna show up again, right? Because it was just completely unceremonious, other than the fact that the Thunderbird showed up.
It's actually kind of anticlimactic, which a lot of things about this ending are like that.
The ending
as we'll talk more about. No. So they just kind of blow up, and it was in a way where it's like, even though I had seen it and knew that they were dead, when it happened in my head, I was like, surely they can't be dead. But I was like, no, but they are. Like that's just how they die. Like it's very sudden and kind of anticlimactic. That the Diggers are just killed, especially because like it's not even like they're really.
It's how you kill off like henchmen. Yeah, it's how you kill off henchmen. It's just like, oh, little explosion, oopsies, they're gone, like cloud of dust, you don't see them.
And they're not even killed by like Eno or Lauren, or like they don't really serve much of a purpose in helping that. Like if they did something significant to help the Thunderbird, which I mean, granted, Eno builds his electrical thing, but like it really feels like just the like Deus Ex Thunderbird shows up, kills them, and then leaves. And it's just like, and it doesn't feel super like fulfilling, I guess, for lack of a better term.
It doesn't even feel like they earned anything. Like, because like it's not even implied that they did anything to summon the Thunderbird. It's like, okay, was the Thunderbird just always going to show up and kill him? Like Deus Ex Thunderbird is genuinely the best way to describe it.
It just shows up, kills them, and then leaves. Like, it's so...
I mean, the only thing that doesn't match the Deus Ex Thunderbird is that they technically do actually mention and build it up. Like, it is foreshadowed, but, like, it just shows up. Like, there's no, like, like, proper lead-up or build-up. There's no build-up to it.
No, there's no build-up. They don't do anything to summon it. It's not like they do something that needs to significantly help the Thunderbird. I mean, again, technically Eno built his little thing, but like Eno's not really like directing anything or helping with that. In fact, he runs away when it happens because he's running away to where the portal is opening. He's not even there. None of the characters even really see the diggers get blown up because it's behind a hill. Like, it just is this kind of anticlimactic ending for them.
Can we do an edit of the Thunderbird screen time with just the only thing they fear is you playing in the background when it shows up?
So then that happens, and then as soon as that explosion happens, an earthquake happens, and the portal is like, oh, clearly the portal's opened. These portals aren't open for very long, by the way. Like, the show, at least, the way it's presented in the show, and this might just be a presentation execution thing, it really makes it seem like these things are open for like a few seconds. Like, not even a minute, right? Like, a lot of stuff has to happen while they're open. And it's kind of... That feels kind of weird. Like, it's like all this stuff must have to happen, like, in this very short amount of time. So the portal opens and closes, and then Lauren, like, freaks out because she thinks Eno ran away. Maybe she thinks that he went in the portal without saying goodbye. She's like, oh, I'll never figure out what happened to my dad. And she kind of specifically acts in a way like it's like that's it. Like, none of these portals will open. But it kind of seems like that's something that happens semi-regularly. Like, not like every day, but it seems like these portals open like at least on like a yearly basis, if not more often than that. I mean, clearly two of them opened over the course of a summer, right?
Yeah.
So...
Well, and who knows if it's even the full summer. This is a camp. I honestly, like, it felt like while watching the show that this was, like, maybe 5 days tops overall. But, like, I'm sure it was, like, maybe a couple weeks. But, like, it really did not feel like it was that long.
So then she freaks out, but then she hears Eno. He comes back, right? So we saw Eno before, I should say. He did enter into a portal. He comes back out. He clearly exited the portal before it closed. Good for him. And she's like, oh my gosh, you came back. And then we see Eno with his parents. We don't really get to see Eno's parents. They're just like silhouettes on the hill.
They clearly didn't want to make unique models for them, so it was just his model in the shadow.
Yes. I don't think we said this before, but they established earlier in the show that Eno is, he's also a teenager, and he's missing his parents, right? His parents are in the underworld, right? So this is like a cathartic, this is an ending of that plot line. Eno gets reunited with his parents. So he gets reunited with them, even though they're just these silhouettes. And then he hands Lauren this rock, this geode, right? And then he just like, they say goodbye, and then he just like buggers off with his parents into the Badlands. And they treat it like Lauren and Eno will never see each other again. But it's weird because it's like, but they're in the overworld. Like, why? And also, like, why is Eno safe now that he's just, like, hanging out with his parents in the Badlands? Like, why is he more safe there than before? It's very strange. It's very, like... It almost feels like... It feels like the story was meant to end with Eno and his parents going back into their world. But it doesn't. Because maybe they didn't have the budget to show it. Like, I almost wonder if maybe that was a late thing, where, like, we don't have the budget to show this, so we'll just have them be in the overworld. I don't know. It's very strange. But then he hands, in the geode that he hands Lauren before he runs away, there's a letter from her dad. She doesn't actually get to meet her dad. He just gives her a letter.
Also, how did he get that letter inside the geode without breaking it?
Well, it does look like it is actually, like, in half, but, like, it, like, snaps together somehow. I don't know how it snaps together.
Oh.
Like, okay. It looks like it...
I thought you broke it open.
There's some... And maybe that's because it's, like, the prop actually was in two halves, right? So, like, it looks like it's clearly a two-half thing, but maybe he did get inside of a geode. Maybe that's what they were intending. I don't know. But then it's a letter saying, like, oh, Lauren, like, you know, I'm still down here living with the dinosaurs. I'll return next time when a portal opens. That's kind of it. That's kind of the end of the show. They read the letter and that's it. That's the end of everything.
It was a very abrupt ending.
It ends so suddenly. Like, the show, don't get me wrong, it's not amazing, right? But it's got, like, a fun charm to it. It's got a lot of ironic enjoyment to have. The ending is easily the worst part.
There was a lot of plot threads.
There was a lot of plot threads. And it's honestly shocking how little of them are wrapped up at the end. Like, they just drop a lot of stuff.
That felt weird to me about the finale it felt like a given that Lauren's mom should have seen or met Eno at some point in the story.
Does.
And she never saw a dinosaur. She just takes it for granted. She's just like,
yeah, I mean, because her husband is like dead / missing, and she knew that he was obsessed with this theory, which it seems implied, maybe they overtly say it, that like she's aware that it has a connection with him going missing or something like that.
Yeah.
Because she's like really dismissive and kind of disdaining towards the whole theory or like the problems that caused them, or that maybe it was related. Obviously, we know it was related to the fact that he's gone, but I don't know if she knows that. But it seems like she kind of does. So it's like maybe if they showed her that, it could have been like some kind of catharsis. I mean, they still give her a catharsis. Like the only plot threads that are resolved is that they bring Eno back to his home to where he can at least meet his parents, which I guess is not the main goal for them, but they end up later being like, no, it is, because when she shows him the dollhouse, or when they're playing with the dollhouse, it's like, okay, I'll help you get to your family. So that plot thread's resolved. The Diggers being villains is resolved because they're dead. I guess Akins as well because he's gone. But and then I guess
but Akins doesn't even get like any. There's no justice. He's just in ragged clothes, and they don't pick him up on the bus. He's not arrested. He's never confronted.
No.
And then the other plot thread that's semi-resolved is that I guess they find out that the dad's alive, and she shares that with the mom, or at least that he was alive up to the point where he sent the letter.
Also, talking about with Akins, right? What's going to stop Akins from trying to do this again? Right?
I know.
Like,
did we ever mention that Akins is like pissed off or something, or when he kind of gets like semi-defeated earlier, he ends up because like I think Eno like breaks out or something like that, or no, he says Lauren and distracts him, and then like knocks him over, whatever, takes his weapon away, breaks or like bends the the thing, and then when Akins is like, this isn't over, he pulls a dynamite stick out of his shirt.
He does!
Like, he literally has a dynamite stick that's just freshly in his shirt, and the next time we see him, he has, like, boxes of them. Yeah. And that's when, like, the Diggers show up there or whatever. But, he just has a full dynamite stick in his shirt that he pulls out.
A very safe place to keep it.
He's a scientist. He's safe.
And also, like, there are these really bright red sticks of dynamite. Like, they look plastic to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. It's pretty funny. Yeah, but and also, like we said before, they never wrap up any of the romantic tensions with any of the characters there. Like, it feels like there's no... It feels like in a lot of ways, like, how the story structure where, like, you have the build up, you have the climax, and then you have, like, your ending resolution thing, like the after climax thing. It feels like that section is basically, it's technically there, but it's almost non-existent. Like, it's just, we wrap it up incredibly quickly. Like, camp's over. Blah, 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 blah. Nothing's really wrapped up. It's strange.
Yep.
It's very strange. It's a very strange, rushed, poorly wrapped up, poorly executed ending.
And I'm like, Eric, you can attest to this now because Aiden hasn't experienced it yet, but I still think Horizon Forbidden West is better, but I feel like the finale reminds me a bit of that, where they speed through a lot of the stuff they introduced and also introduce some new things that are just like character motivations where I'm like, what? At last minute?
Yeah.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah, but something I forgot to mention as I was watching the show is it gave me PTSD to that.
It gave
and
you
I was
PTSD
like,
Horizon
that's not a good thing.
West. Yeah.
It did.
Yeah, it's so strange. It's so rushed. But anyways, that's Dinosapien. There you go. We reviewed the show. I hope that you feel maybe semi-inspired to watch it. Like we said, we would recommend watching it.
It's very entertaining.
I hope that you enjoyed our commentary and our thoughts on some of these things.
Yeah, I just I actually really recommend that people give it a shot because I think it's really charmingly bad.
Yeah, it is indeed. Yeah, I hope that that this review just, if nothing else, just makes people more aware of it, because I feel like this is something more people should know about. Like, it feels like this should be somewhat iconic, regardless of whether you think it's good or not. I feel like but just no one talks about it. No one knows about it. And I feel like that needs to change.
I really think the show should be nominated for a paleo meme on the Dromies coming up.
Yes!
Because it's like a lost media. It has paleo meme energy. It needs...
Or a Razzie.
Yeah.
I think that's the one, right?
What are Razzies?
Bad Movie Award.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they could be
Maybe,
it could be a Razzie. Well, cool. I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.